One. Well, it is go time. This is Charles. I am Brandon Madison of Nexxlegacy Radio here with a beautiful guest. And this young lady, look, my story is simple. I was on TikTok and I was scrolling through and I saw real estate stuff and I was like, let me scroll back and double back and take a look and see what's up. So wound up finding this young lady and just scrolling through and I'm looking at just the energy. And I told Helen this before, like, what captured me is just how passionate she sounds about wanting to help people, not just being a specific realtor, but just trying to be able to get good game out there for the people, so they can be on their way to buy homes. So it's not just when you are locked in with a realtor, it's not just someone that's trying to make a sale. Someone really and truly wants to help evolve your life, change your life. Because when you buy a home, it is life changing. And I've heard stories being in the banking business, how it just really just kind of took something to another level. They were able to have that home for their kids, grandkids. There's a lot of stories here. So again, I encourage y'all, go follow Helen Santana on social media. Hit her per website, which is njhomesbyhelen.com. Go ahead and send that email at helensantanahomes@gmail.com. And I have the beautiful Helen Santana on Nexxlegacy Radio. What's up, girl?
Yeah.
What's up?
What's up?
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Well, first off, thank you for tapping in and checking out, not just us being able to have this dialogue and this Q&A session, but I want to start off before we dive deep into real estate and the impact that you've had on people. I kind of want to know a little bit of your origin story. So, how did you get started doing what you're doing right now in the real estate business?
Well, for me, I always wanted to be in real estate. Initially, when I got my license, it was because I wanted to start real estate investing, but I ended up turning into an actual career. So I joined for myself and then ended up becoming like a full-time realtor over the years. And I joined during COVID because it was the easiest time to get into real estate. Before you had to do the school full time, and it was hard to do when you're working because I was also working full time. So during COVID, you were able to do it online, which was great. You were able to do the school online, the testing online. So since everyone was locked down working from home, I was able to work from home and then do all my real estate classes from home and make it happen relatively quickly. So I was grateful for that. I started not knowing much about real estate, even though I already had owned my own home. But through real estate school and then I joined Keller Williams when I first started. And they
Okay.
always they're the best for education. So I definitely learned a lot through all the classes that they offered. And I just started, everything that I learned, started sharing it with other people. And before you know it, I was like, wow, I'm actually a real agent. And I started just selling homes. You start with one and then it's a trickle effect. And before you, like now, I'm at almost 60 homes that I've sold. So hoping to sell many more.
So you were intrigued by it, you wound up doing it, but was there one specific thing that made you be like, I kind of want to do this? Was there a trigger that made you just kind of like, okay, I'm ready to do this?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the money. The money
Respect.
is great. When you do a big deal, especially a deal over $1 million, and you get one paycheck that is like what you would make in 2, 3 months, it's like, all right, I could do this.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
aside from the money, obviously helping people, like the joy that I feel when I help, especially a first time home buyer that didn't know, they didn't think it was possible to be a homeowner, and B, they knew nothing about the process. So just educating them along the way, for me, that it's a great feeling. So I truly enjoy it. I mainly work with first time home buyers. So I'm big on educating people about the process and letting them know everything that it takes and what they have to do to prepare for home ownership. So I take pride in that and I enjoy what I do.
What are some of the things that you run across since you got started in 2020? And I know 2020 was crazy. like pandemic crazy. So it was different. So during that span, did you get a chance to really, like you mentioned, kind of not necessarily game yourself up, but just really know the market too at that particular time?
Yeah, I mean, back then it was crazy because that's when the market started to shift. Before that, it was like a regular market. It was pretty much a buyer's market. You can negotiate on pricing, and then everything just changed quickly. Like the demand just grew out of nowhere. The interest rates dropped like crazy.
Hmm.
They got to 2%. So, uh, issue that we come across a lot ever since COVID is that everyone's thinking the rates will come back down.
Right.
And we're like, it's just not going to happen. You just have to adapt and realize that this is the new normal. But you have so many people that missed out on buying a home at those 2 and 3% rates because they thought it would last longer, and they
Yeah.
thought prices would go down. The opposite happened. The rates just kept going up and the prices kept going up. So a lot of people missed out. They got priced out of the market. So now you have a lot of people that just disappeared from the market because they can't compete anymore at the current rates and at the current prices.
So those people that has disappeared because they found out that the market is real in terms of, oh, it was this, now it's that, and now it's going to stay that, maybe go a little bit higher. Do you still keep in touch with them, or do they feel like they're never going to buy a home?
No, I think people are still in the waiting game. They're still waiting. They're hopeful that one day the interest rates will go down, or that the market is going to go to change and be a buyer's market again. It can happen, but it might be years. I don't see it happening anytime soon. But
Hmm.
I definitely keep in contact with people. I have a CRM, which is a customer relationship manager. So we can set clients up where they get automatic emails, so they're still in touch with what's happening in the market, even though they're not ready to buy. They're still getting that information.
Right. Helen Santana is my guest on Next Legacy Radio, and well, I always look at it like, especially with the market, like, there's highs and lows, and now it's just not even lows. There's just highs and higher's in
Yeah.
terms of not just the rate, but also the sense of urgency that I feel like people should have. Doesn't matter what state you're in. You're in New Jersey by way of this conversation, but I mean, you're a people of the world, and I know different things fluctuates and it's different. What has been your obstacles though, like throughout your journey, not just since 2020 and adjusting to the rates, but what are other things that's been an obstacle for you?
The main obstacle really is the lack of inventory, because you'll have a whole town, and in the whole town you'll have maybe 3 houses, or sometimes 1 or 2 houses that hit the market per week, and you
Hmm.
have hundreds of buyers. So even though it's not COVID where people are having 50, 60 offers per listing, it's
Right.
still competitive where even if they get 10, 20 offers, most people are still getting beat out.
Hmm.
So you have a lot of clients who they get defeated because they're putting in offers every week and they're getting outbid. And it's, with the rates being what they are, once they run the numbers, the mortgage payments don't make sense to go past a certain number. So they're kind of stuck. Like, I have to stay below my number, but there's
Right.
always someone that comes and just blows them out of the water with these crazy numbers. Sometimes I'm like, I don't even know how they can afford these mortgage payments at the numbers, because they're going 40, 50, 60,000 above asking. And
Right.
it's at some point it just stops making sense. But people are still buying, people keep getting outbid. So I would say that's the biggest challenge, is just the lack of inventory and just the amount of competition.
Do you think there is different ways to be able to offset that? Because you mentioned that people are playing the waiting game and people are just kind of checking the market just to see. Do you give tips as far as, what, it's better to buy now, get yourself in maybe like a 5 year whatever,
Mhm.
and then figure it out in terms of what it's going to look like moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, a phrase that a lot of people were using, I personally wasn't using it, but it was like, marry the house and date the rate. Like, buy it and then you can refinance later.
Right.
But I only tell people that if they could truly afford it. I would never want someone to, be house poor and struggle to make ends meet just so they can get into a house. and then God forbid something happens and they're at risk of losing that house because they can't afford to pay it. So I never like to push people to spend more than what they can afford, if that makes sense.
Yep.
But I still tell them this is a possibility. Like the rates are what they are, they're high, but they will go down eventually. It could take 5 years, it could take longer, but eventually you can refinance and eventually you will have a lower payment. Also, once you've been paying for a while, if your property value goes up, you can do a reappraisal. And once you hit 20% in equity, you can get rid of that PMI, which is the private mortgage insurance that you have to pay. It's a few $100s extra a month that you're paying when you put less than 20% down. So eventually you can get rid of that. That's a way to save. And once the rates go down, you can refinance. So I do mention that to clients, but I never like push people or force people to do more than what they really can afford comfortably.
Right. You mentioned something also that's important. So tell the listeners who may not even know, what does house poor look like, sound like?
That means, well, so when you get pre-approved, the lender will give you a pre-approval based on your debt to income ratio. And you can have a pre-approval where, your mortgage payment can be whatever the percentage is different for FHA and conventional loans. So let's say it's 43%. So your mortgage payment could be 43% of your income, but it doesn't take into consideration your other debts. If you have a child in daycare, if you have, all these extra expenses that eat up most of your budget, you can barely afford to pay that 43%. But some people will still stretch it and they'll take on those big mortgage payments and they're literally living check to check. So you're house poor. Yeah, you have the house now, but you can barely afford groceries or you can't afford furniture for that house because literally all your money is pouring into the mortgage. And then you have all the other expenses that eat up your income and you have no disposable income. So I definitely don't want people to end up in those situations because it happens a lot. So I always tell people make sure your payments make sense and that you're living within your means and you're not in a situation where you'll end up house poor and struggling to make those payments.
One thing I love about what you do and what you've put out on social media is you go through the step-by-step journey of someone who is on the verge of purchasing and then what happens after they purchase and what to look out for. You've said in a couple of your TikToks in regards to like the savings port. Well, before I even do savings, let's go with pre-approval. Very important as a step to see what you can possibly afford, but also isn't it important to not just base it on what you can afford, but maybe just maybe you might need to lower some things that you normally would do in terms of like your overall spending habits in order to make sure you stay on top of it, correct?
For sure, for sure. Um, I'll give you an example. Like when I bought my house, I bought it through this program called NACA, which is I believe it's Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America. And the way that program works is for first-time home buyers, but they actually have a training that you have to go to, and then you have to stick to a budget. They actually make you stick to a budget for 3 months before they even give you a pre-approval. And one of the main things they do is called payment shock. Payment shock is the difference of what your current rent is and what your new mortgage will be. So if you're paying $1,800 for an apartment, but your mortgage is going to be $3,000, you have to save $1,200 a month for 3 months to prove that you can take on that $3,000 a month debt. And a lot of people hate the program. They say it's so tedious. Honestly, it really helps and it prepares you for home ownership because it's forcing you to now you realize what your payments are going to be and now you have to adjust. So if you were buying Starbucks every day, now that you're paying almost double on your mortgage, can you still afford that Starbucks? So it's like they give you a book and you have to write down everything you spend like for the month. So you have to, if you do Starbucks every day and you're spending $10 a day, you have to account for that. And then they review all of that and they're like, you got to cut this out, you got to cut that out. And it's literally, they call it mortgage counseling. And I feel like that's so important and people need that because they don't realize it is expensive being a homeowner.
Yeah.
So many expenses. And it's not only the mortgage, it's now you got You got to pay your water. You got to pay your garbage. You got to pay your gas, electric, cable. It adds up. So you have to be prepared. It's
Not
not.
only is it important, you got to prepare. Like it's just like having another child, or even if you didn't have a child, this is probably like your first one, because you really have to pay attention to the growth of what you want to do in order for you to maintain that house that you want to buy.
Okay.
um I look at pre-approval and savings, they kind of go hand in hand, because you might need a little bit more even if you go through the FHA process or other things, but there is a deeper value to the word savings when you're trying to buy a home. Can you explain that to the listeners out there and the people that will be listening, how important it is to just save? Sometimes you got to clip that Starbucks that you mentioned, or sometimes, you know what, I'm not going to go out this month and spend 500, 1,000, $1,500 on concerts or whatever. You may need to scale back. Tell the people how important that is.
Yeah, it's very important because I feel like a lot of people forget about closing costs. So they think, oh, I just had to have enough money for my down payment. And they think that there's so many programs out there for down payment assistance. While there are programs out there for down payment assistance, there's always a catch. So with a lot of those programs, you have to meet the income limit. So a lot of people don't qualify. So once you make over a certain amount, you no longer qualify. So you can't really depend on those programs. You want to make sure you have enough for down payment and closing costs. So closing costs typically are like I tell people to average between 3 and 5% of the purchase price, in addition to your down payment for closing costs. And then in addition to that, I personally always think people should have reserves. They typically say have 6 months of reserves. Most people don't.
Right.
Obviously, you're putting so much money into down payment and closing costs. But once you're a homeowner, anything that goes wrong in the house, you are responsible for. You have no landlord to go to. There's no super that's going to come fix your leak. So if you have a pipe that bursts, you got to pay for that. If you have a furnace, a hot water heater that goes out, you got to pay for that. So I always advocate having extra money aside for reserves, and in the event you have a major repair that you have to do, or even in the event that you lose your job, God forbid, you have a cushion. So definitely big advocate of having enough savings before you go into purchasing a home.
I think it's important that people realize that, and sometimes it's a sacrifice that some people just aren't built to have. I'm going to actually rewind and go back, because before pre-approval and before savings, you got to work on credit.
Right.
Make sure you're solid there. Like, to me, I think it's the funniest thing, and I'm going to tell you a quick story before I ask you a question. Like,
Mhm.
my daughter's mom and I, we used to like have heated debates, and my daughter's 22 now, about opening credit cards and things like that. I always tell, I told her, and I tell my daughter, it's important for you. Debit cards, why the hell do you want to use that when you could just literally like build your credit as you're paying your stuff? Because if you know you can afford it, it's easy for you to just use your credit card, pay that off. Don't even trip off a debit card, and build yourself that way. Oh, she's too young. No, no, you're not. Once you're 18 and you're in college, you can get that student debit credit card or whatnot. You don't even need to use your debit card. Specific things that some folks, and I'm not just saying that as my own example, but there's other people out there who are totally against credit.
Right.
It's just whatever the case may be. But you and I know what time it is.
Right. Right.
It's vital that you start early. Tell the people a little bit about that.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, I had made a video on TikTok about that. So for credit, like my recommendation is start as early as possible. And even if you're younger and you want to buy a house when you're 21, start early. Like I'll give you an example. For me, my son's 15. As soon as I could, I added him as an authorized user to my card. So I think by 13, you can add your kids as an authorized user. So that's helping them have that credit history. And when he turns 18, if he wants to go open his own credit card, he'll already have history and he'll get approved of no problem. And now you can have that credit card so he can start building his own credit under his name. And like you said, you're using your card, not your debit card. You're using a credit card. You're building credit and you're getting benefits. Like there's so many different cards that offer so many perks, whether it's miles, cash back, gift cards or discounts, or even zero interest for a year.
Yep.
So that's actually a hack that I tell a lot of buyers too, when they're like, "Oh, I want to, renovate my kitchen, but I don't have the money." I'm like, once you close on the house, don't spend all of your savings doing these repairs. Take out a card, zero interest. Obviously, pay it back before the interest kicks in, because if you don't, that defeats the purpose.
Yep.
But take out a card, zero interest. There's so many promotions and so many like different incentives to using credit that people don't realize. They just see it as bad as debt, but it's actually good debt as long as you do it responsibly and you pay it off before that interest kicks in.
Why do you think there is? I mean, and I'm struggling with this, Helen, just on account of, I just feel like sometimes we get in our own way. We kind of trip over ourselves when it comes to making a commitment, right? Like I feel like buying a home is a super, super big commitment. So in order for you, it's just like a marriage, or it's just like, being being a parent. Like oh my God, this is real life now. So I gotta change what I do so I can be better for the long run. And I'm not just talking about in Jersey or anywhere else. I'm in California, so not any other states. Why do you think people stumble when it comes to trying to commit to it?
To commit to buying a home, I mean, I feel like a lot of people, they don't know what their future holds. Some people are thinking, well, wait, I'll wait till I get married, or I'll wait to buy a house with a partner. So a lot of people are scared to do it on their own. But actually, I believe, don't quote me, but there's statistics out there. There are a lot of the new homeowners are really single women. So a lot of women, they're not waiting for the guy anymore. They're just doing it on their own. I mean, that's when I bought my house, that's how I did it. So I don't really come across too many people that are hesitant to buy a house, but there are some people who are maybe waiting for marriage or for a partner. They have that dual income, they qualify for more, or they don't know if they want to move to another state, so they're a little bit unstable, or they simply just don't have the money. But for the most part, I feel like most people really do want to be homeowners. They just don't have the means to do it.
Right. And also I feel like, to add on to what you're saying, I also feel like people feel like, oh, in my state, I could never buy a home because this is like three times, four times, five times as much as I can afford, or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. Or I don't want to take my kid out of the district that they're currently in, or my husband or significant other, whoever, husband or wife, only works like 15 minutes from where
Mm.
we currently live. So it's more of a convenience thing than anything like that. But also, it's just like we've been saying this for since we've done this. I think it's important for people to get out of their shell and just do more. They want to get it, Helen. They want to hit you up. And speaking of which, I appreciate the people who was actually scanned the QR code, um, and went on to the website to check out Homes by Helen. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Keep scanning this QR code because literally it takes you to her website so everybody can get gamed up and her information is there. But Helen, I'm telling you, like, I feel like a lot of people are just shy, and getting them out of their comfort zone is going to be the best thing for them. Do you have any like success stories that you could share? You don't have to give names out, but just specific clients that you help that literally kind of, tears of joy, or whatever situation that you could be able to tell these folks about just the positive side of the final of purchasing a home.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of stories just because, like I mentioned, a lot of people that I work with are first time home buyers. So I had a I've had clients that don't have social security numbers. And they're like, how can I buy a home? It's so difficult. They don't know what to do. So you literally have to educate them on the whole process. And then on top of that, let them know that there are options. Like there's a ITIN loan, which goes off their ITIN number instead of a social security number. Yes, the interest rates are higher. Yes, they're going to have to put a higher down payment. But there's a lot of, like immigrants that come from other countries. they pay taxes, they work hard, and they do have the money because they'll work all day and they'll just save all their money. And I've helped people like that buy homes, and a lot of people, they don't know that there's options for them. So helping people, that didn't think it was possible find a home is always a win. There's been people that have really bad credit that I've guided them through, steps on how to repair their credit, and then they'll come back months later saying, now I'm ready, and they're pre-approved, and we got them a house. So that's always great, seeing people turn their situation around and be able to buy a home. I've had cases where there's clients who were working with other agents and they didn't feel like they were getting the service that they needed. And then they start working with me and they see the difference. And then, we're able to get them under contract quick. That's happened a few times, thank God, because now it's actually challenging. A lot of people are getting beat out, but just to provide the service and see clients be happy, like that's always a win for me. So there's a lot of stories, but it's always a joy to see someone buy a home.
I totally love it. I totally love it. I think what's important, and as I'm looking across, I know I'm seeing people with information in the chat room. I know Denies Your put out, people really don't think about this part. That's how they fall into the money pit in regards to just the savings piece of what we do, and how what you do as well, being a realtor, looking out for people's money. I'm not just trying to look at your statements to see what you got and how much you got. It's also your spending habits, as far as what you can do to better yourself later and things like that too. So I think it's super important. Helen Santana is my guest on Nexxlegacy Radio, and with everything that you've done during the spans since 2020, and now here we are 2025, and it's just different. The rates are different. And I know we can't forecast what the future will look like in terms of what the rest of the year and 2026 is going to be, but do you see a shift in people's attempts to be able to purchase a home despite what's going on in the economy and everything else? People reaching out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I actually, in the last month, I've gotten a ton of people that are getting back into the home search. A lot of people gave up, I want to say, once the interest rate started to climb initially. Sometime last year, they were, in the eights. So they were 8.25, 8.5% in interest. And now, you can get like the high sixes. Some people are still in the sevens, but they did drop from last year. So I have a lot of people that have been reaching out saying that they were looking in the past, they were pre-approved, and now they're ready to start looking again. So just like this past week, I was working with like 10 different clients and I was doing showings every day. So sometimes you have weeks where it's slow, you have 1 or 2 buyers, and then all of a sudden it's like 10 and you're running around like crazy.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen a lot of people reaching out and getting back into the market.
Well, I'm going to get back to you too, because you did mention something just now. The life of a realtor. Sometimes it's slow. Sometimes it's that wave, right? It's that wave. How do you manage your grind and what you do? Because I've been in banking. I know how that works. I've been in retail banking. I know how it works. I've been connected to so many realtors in a good part of my life. I know it can be a grind. So what are your thoughts in what you do and have done over the last 5 years?
It's definitely challenging at times. It gets overwhelming at times. So the best thing is to stay consistent. In real estate, they always say consistency is key. Making sure you're always with your phone in your hand. My phone is always near me. I try to get back to people right away. I don't let things linger. Following up a lot, but it's also important to also have balance. So sometimes you have to know, all right, if they're texting me at 1 o'clock in the morning, maybe that can wait till tomorrow. If I'm out to dinner, maybe I can wait till after dinner to respond. And then you have to also make sure you take vacations, because we have no days off. In real estate, you work around the clock 7 days a week. You don't have a weekend. Your weekends are actually busier than the weekdays. So it's important to recharge and take time for yourself, for sure.
Weekends are busy, Helen. Why? I'll answer it for you. Because people work Monday through Friday. They ain't got no time to be coming on the weekdays. So you know what? I got the weekend. Let's call Helen and see if she's available, because I know up the street there is a house being shown, right? Right.
Exactly. Yep. And not to mention the open houses.
There
I
you go.
open houses.
There you go. There you go. No, I find it fascinating, especially in this day and age in the real estate game, because it is exactly what you mentioned, a grind. There is times that you got to take for yourself. And if you have a family, significant other, spouse or whatever, there's a process to it all. So what keeps you motivated with all this that you mentioned, with the wave of what's going on? What continues your journey to make you motivated to be your best self dealing with the public like this?
I mean, literally God, because I'm big into prayer, and sometimes it's so challenging that I'm like, oh my God, I don't think I could do this anymore. And in real estate, a lot of people, no lie, they want to quit every week.
Yeah.
People think real estate is easy. All we do is open doors, but no, we're like, you have to be a therapist, you have to be a negotiator, contract writer, you have to act almost like an attorney. Like, you wear so many hats in real estate. It can be very draining, very exhausting. And sometimes I'm like, God help me, I can't do this on my own. So
Mhm.
literally, lots of prayer and my faith in God is what keeps me motivated and gets me through it half the time. Without that, I don't know. I might not still be here.
Now listen, you gotta have a fight to, not just retain your sanity. Because I always look at it like this, Helen, what you do, and I told you this the first conversation that we had or whatever when we started networking or whatnot. What you do is important. How you do it is even more important. The
Mhm.
why you do it is why you're still doing it. And I
Yeah.
think continue to stay prayed up. And I know people have their differences of what they believe in, but whatever God you pray to or whatever it is that you do, it's important that there is a higher calling. There is a thing that you do in order to be able to be a provider or a
Mhm.
conduit for the next level of growth in a person. And
Yeah.
you're not doing it just because you're a kid and your family. You're doing it because you genuinely want to help strangers be more, do more, and follow suit. So, again, keep them prayers up, because like I said, I feel like if you didn't do all that, you and I probably won't be talking right now. You know what I'm saying? So that's big. I just want to say that.
Yeah. And of course, obviously my son too. They always say, "What's your why?" And people always say your kids. So that's a given, your kids. But definitely, you know, I be having to pray myself through it sometimes. I'm like,
No doubt, no doubt. It ain't easy, Helen. You know this. You know this. It's just, and we talked about just having a bunch of people that is like not yes men and women, but just people that is really trying to help support. Um, has that been the same in your journey as well? Like, you got not just the strength of your, friends or family and people out there, but just in general, like, you got a lot of support. Yes.
yeah, I mean, I'm grateful to be on a team. So I'm on a real estate team, and my team is pretty big. I think it's about 16 of us,
Okay.
and I'm at a brokerage that's very supportive. So that definitely helps because one thing about real estate is you're always learning.
Hmm.
Nobody knows everything. There's always things that are changing, and there's always room for growth. So it's great to be around other people that are like-minded and work hard and hustle so you can feed off each other. We're always feeding off each other and learning from each other. So that definitely helps. I've been a solo agent too, and definitely hands down, I enjoy being on a team just because in real estate you really have no boss. You're your own boss.
Right.
So if you take your foot off the gas, like you could just go downhill quickly. You get lazy, you get unmotivated, you fall off, and you just like business slows down. But being on a team, and it's like healthy competition
Hmm.
because you're like, oh, this person sold the house, let me go out there and sell a house too.
Right.
And you're all saying, okay, this person's doing great, I can do it too. Let me see like how I can grow my business. So it's like I said, that healthy competition and just feeding off people's energy definitely helps.
Feed off that energy. It's needed. It's wanted, especially if they got good energy though. Like,
yeah, for sure. No negativity. We don't got time for that.
exactly. So I'm gonna ask you a question,
Mhm.
and I just want your honest take on just as we navigate through your grind, because you have your website, which is available, njhomesbyhelen.com. People can hit her up for real business by going to Helen Santana Homes at gmail.com. You see her agent, license ID number, phone number, QR code, and everything else in terms of like how to navigate and contact Helen. Give me your true thoughts about just social media and how you feel about it.
So I have a love-hate relationship with social media because, like, before I would always use Instagram, but more socially, everybody posts pictures when they go out and whatnot. But, everyone kept saying, you have to do social media for your business. You have to put yourself out there. And I was always very shy or reserved. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be on camera, or I hate the way my voice sounds. And that I remember one of the real estate coaches, actually at Keller Williams, he always said, done is better than perfect. And, we're always, my hair got to be right, or I got to sound perfect. Just start.
You're
And then
right.
I, what? I'm going to start posting TikToks. And then I just started, and I was like, what? I kind of like this. So now
Yeah,
I go on every week.
yeah,
And so, like at first, I hated it, but now I enjoy it. I do sometimes go down a rabbit hole once you start scrolling and you're on there for hours, which cuts into my productivity sometimes.
right.
But
Yeah.
overall, I feel like for real estate, you have to be on social media, you have to network, you have to put yourself out there. So I feel like it's essential now, and it's part of the business. It's like if you're not on social media, it's like nobody knows who you are.
No doubt. And it's again, that's how we connected, right? Like if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't
Exactly.
be where we're at. But it's a blessing and a curse for me because I had to cut, no, literally had to cut Helen like a good portion of my social media because of what you said. You fall
Mhm.
down that rabbit hole, you're lost in the sauce of like scrolling up, down, and all around for stuff, right?
Right.
So I just cut it to a marginable few, not even a few, like a couple, just so I could just know where the potential is in terms of networking.
Right.
And I think this is important for you, not just you, but you and me in the world, like where your engagements are too, because you just don't want to post to nothing. You just want to take the temperature of where your engagement is flowing from. So if you have specific situations where, you know what, I think I'm getting a little bit more action here. So this is where I need to trickle down my information, then let's go. But you and I know what time it is. There's fake pages, there is
Yeah.
fake situations or whatever where you just need to make sure that you just keep putting out this is the real me and this is not like some other people. But where can they find you? I know I put it up here, but I want you to tell them where your real pages are as well.
Yeah. So what you have here on the screen is correct. So I'm to be honest, I use Instagram more than I do TikTok. So I feel like that's my main social media is Helen underscore Santana underscore Homes on Instagram. Facebook I don't use often, um, and then TikTok would be second. But and now I started my YouTube page, so
Hey,
I'm posting uh, the same content on
yeah,
all platforms, but it's just another way to get out there and reach more people.
watch Helen. You're gonna get so caught up in you're gonna be like, which one's gonna be my top two now? Like,
Right, right, right.
you're gonna get caught up. Trust me. You and I already talked, so we
Yeah,
already know. I think it's important. It's important out there to have this kind of dialogue out there to separate the real from the fake. But
mhm,
deeper than that, it's important for people to really get a hold of you who really want to do business with you and nothing else. In terms
yeah,
of like, it's good to network, but it's also good to put it out there that you know what, let's go do business. I appreciate that, and let's see what we can be able to happen when it comes to that. So that's super important.
for sure.
Helen Santana is my guest on Next Legacy Radio. And a couple more questions before we let you go. And I'm gonna ask, I mean, we're a radio station, right? So we do all this, we put all our stuff on YouTube. We have a radio station that's not just playing in the back, but all that good stuff. Check it out. What is Helen Santana's best decade of music?
For sure, 90s and early 2000s. I still listen to all that music from when I was in high school. I graduated in 2001 from high school. So that whole school era, that music that played, because, for everyone, like your school days kind of forms you, right? Everybody remembers high school. So the songs that played during those years are memorable. So you always have a situation where you can relate to a song. And it's like, what? Remember that song was out when we was here in high school? So for me, I still play 90s and 2000s music. It's so much better than the stuff that's out now, the mumble rap that you can barely understand.
Facts.
So for sure.
None of that. So what's in your playlist right now though?
So I listen to, like I said, I'll play like 90s music, 2000s music, but I really like Bryson Tiller. So I'll play Bryson Tiller on shuffle and I'll just listen to all his songs all the time.
Okay.
Funny because I have a Spotify, so my son and I share the account. So he's always going on. He's like, "Why are you always listening to Bryson Tiller?" I'm a creature of habit and repetition. So when I like something, I'll just keep playing it over and over, and that's what I do. And I love listening to music. Like sometimes I don't even turn the TV on. I'll just have music playing in the background, and I'll work and have music playing all day.
Okay. So Bryson Tiller. Uh, Name one artist that you would love to see in concert. Doesn't have to be this year, but just in general, that bucket list of shows that you want to see. You can give me whatever, top two, top whatever.
Well, my favorite artist has always been Jay-Z, and I've been to many of his concerts.
Okay.
So someone that I haven't seen, I've still never been to a Drake concert.
Okay.
Even though all the controversy with Kendrick Lamar is going on, everybody still likes Drake. Like he has so many songs that are hits. I would like to see Drake in concert.
Okay. Well, you know what? It's nothing wrong with Drake fans and or Kendrick Lamar fans. That's okay. But let me ask you this. It's a random question, but I'm gonna ask you this. So you saw Kendrick Lamar's explosion of one diss song about Drake, and it won a Grammy, and it wasn't a Super Bowl, most streams ever, blah, 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 right? So do you think we will ever see something like that again in terms of diss tracks about a person that captured so many people's attention?
For sure. I mean, I don't know when and I don't know who.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like in art, when we were younger, the whole Biggie and Tupac, we never thought we'd see a beef like that again. And I mean, nothing has been to that degree because it's not as violent as it used to be back in the days.
No doubt.
I feel like that was big, and now we have this with Kendrick and Drake, and they have the R&B whatever beefs with Chris Brown and whoever he's arguing with now. Who knows? Yeah, I'm sure there's so many. Maybe not in this time, but in a few years, when with another generation, there'd probably be another situation.
I feel like, Helen, it's wild that we will, and to me, I'm on the other side because I feel like that was lightning in a bottle. I don't know if you'll ever see a song that had that much of an impact, that was nominated and won a Grammy and then did a Super Bowl. I don't know. Like, I mean,
give it to Kendrick, because I was like, like I've listened to his music in the past, but I feel like he never got the recognition like this. Even though he's a good artist, like the way he blew up like off of this song is amazing and great. He's good, but I feel like he wasn't commercial or mainstream like Drake was, so he didn't get the attention. And just to see, even with the Super Bowl, how everybody said, "Oh, the Super Bowl was so whack, I didn't like it," but everybody and their mama did a TikTok or a Instagram.
right.
So people were watching, like you said, you can't fake influence. Like you can't. Like the impact that he had was phenomenal, and like
it's gonna live within the legacy of what's created as far as, just one of the best runs you'll ever have in music,
Sure.
because I don't know if anybody's going to ever do it, but you said somebody might, so you never know.
No, there's always somebody new that comes up on the scene and you just don't know.
No doubt. So Drake concert, anybody else that you could think of off top?
I can't think of anybody that I would say I'm really a fan of. I feel like the people that I've wanted to see, like I've seen Jay-Z, I've seen Beyonce. I feel like those are the big stars. I've seen Kanye West in concert. Like the people that I've really wanted to see, I've seen.
Yeah.
But I would say Drake is the only one. I've never been to a Drake concert.
You a Mary J. Blige fan?
I've been to Mary J. Blige concert.
Okay. Yeah, I went like a month ago. I'll have to send you some pictures and videos. The most amazing show, period. Like, what is it? Mario and Neil opened up for her, but her whole stage presence, and that woman's like in her 50s, right? And she's still rocking out. So, listen, it was my first time seeing her, and I was blown away. So, respect, absolutely.
Right.
People want to follow my girl, hit up Helen Santana homes@gmail.com. njhomesbyhelen.com is the website. You see it on the screen. Make sure you go ahead and just tap in. I appreciate all the QR code hits. Bookmark that website if all you hundreds of people is literally hitting up that QR code. Bookmark it. Create a platform where you can be ready, because Helen's gonna ask you questions. You gotta be ready, right, Helen? You can't just be like, you gotta come with a plan, right? People gotta be prepared.
Yeah, it's funny because I had somebody reach out to me that they wanted a rental. And then I don't know how I ended up asking them, well, how'd you get into default on why do you have collection items? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to get in your business, but
Yeah.
how important credit is. And he was like, all right, you're schooling me. I was like, yeah, because you should have decent credit at your age. So it's like if somebody comes to me for a rental, I don't want to waste their time and I don't want to waste my time. So it's like, why are you moving? How long have you lived there? Because these are questions the landlords ask.
No doubt.
What's your credit score? What's your income? What do you do for a living? How much do you owe in debt? Do you have collection items? And then 9 out of 10 times somebody has collection items, or my credit's not good, or I'm working on it. But credit is always the biggest issue.
Know your business before you talk to Helen, because Helen needs to know where your head's at in terms of what the next step is going to be in terms of you buying a home. Be on your game. That's all the things I'm going to ask y'all. Keep the QR. Oh, I love it. Keep the QR codes coming. Once this show is over, it will replay and stay, so you can continue to hit it. Bookmark her website and just be ready. Just be ready. One final thing as we
if you're not ready, I can help you get ready.
Facts. That is true. It's always better to do some homework before you go talk to the teacher, though. Just saying. But when it comes to your legacy that you have created, and I want to say this is beyond of what you've done as a realtor right now, how do you want your legacy to be remembered?
I just want people to know that I'm genuine and that I always cared for people. And for me, it was always more genuinely helping people, not just about making money or making a paycheck. Or, I feel like in real estate, a lot of people are known like for just chasing a check and wanting their commission and not genuinely caring about the outcome or, the quality of the house that they're selling, or making sure that their clients are being serviced properly and satisfied. So I just want to be remembered for having good service, for providing good service.
And that will last forever.
Mm-hmm.
Something that will pass down to your son and family and future family or whatever. I think it's vital and important. Helen Santana is my guest on Nexxlegacy, and I want to thank you for spending not just time with me, but thank you for, and I told you this personally, I'll tell it to you publicly. I just appreciate your energy and your willingness to pay it forward and help other people. It's not just about like, hey, it's always great when we could pick up a paycheck for the hard work that we do.
Right.
Also, to see other people be in tears or be happy or be educated on what you give them. Like a lot of people don't understand this, Helen, and I'm just letting the people out there know, like each time that you help people, it's kind of like you're giving a piece of yourself at each rate and stage. And doesn't matter how long you've done it enough. But we need, in order for that to be replenished, we need stations like this, other people that is supporting you, and people out there that really and truly just want to pay it forward and help you succeed, just like you want to help others succeed. So it's always a give and take, and it's a flush of the energy you put out and then what you receive in terms of your blessings and things like that. So I can't thank you enough for being the kind of realtor that I feel like we all should have. If you want a top flight real estate agent extraordinaire in Jersey and beyond, you need to go holler at this girl right here. Like seriously, I'm not even joking. And she's not paying me to say this. I'm saying it because I mean it. And this woman's on fire. I'm telling you, I can't thank you enough for being who you are.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Anything else you want to say to the people before we log off and let people rerun this interview over and over and over and over again? Anything you want to shout out? Anybody you want to shout out?
I mean, just adding just to the whole thing with real estate is really the main vehicle for having wealth in this country, because even if you have money in the bank and you're saving, like what are you getting? 3%. With real estate, you have to remember that there's always appreciation. So even though you buy a house and yes, your mortgage payments are high, yes, there's more expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time you're getting that back because when you sell your home, you're gaining equity. So most people, especially now, they're making a killing when they sell their house. So
yes,
if they bought the house, 10, 15 years ago for 300,000, now they're selling it for 600,000 and 700,000, and they're walking away. Some people have already paid their houses off, or have a ton of equity. They're walking away with $400,000, $500,000, and this is money you'll never have if you keep renting. So that's another thing to just remember, that it's almost like a retirement plan. So it's like buy a house, live there for as long as you can, and when you're old and you can't take care of the house anymore, sell it and buy a condo in Miami and pay for it in cash.
There you go. There you go. Exactly. I feel it. Listen, I'm gonna leave people on a cliffhanger because you mentioned something about home equity. When is it a good time to pull equity out of your home? I'm gonna leave it at that. Don't answer it. We'll tell them on the next time that you and I will do this or whatever. Because there's, I swear, I can ask you 50 questions or more about just stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We still didn't talk about self-employed people buying a home for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
We still haven't talked about specific things in terms of commercial real estate, trying to tie it into their personal stuff. But we'll tell them on the next one, though.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Well, I can't thank you enough. I appreciate all the people up there that's tapping in. And make sure you go to Helen Santana Homes at gmail.com. Make sure you hit up the website, njhomesbyhelen.com. Check out her information. She is legit. She said her primary place on social media is Helen_Santana Homes. She has a TikTok, a real one. You'll know the real ones from the fake ones. Trust me.
Yeah, that's another thing. There's like 4 fake accounts, and I'm flattered that someone took the time to imitate me, but I'm like, why? Like, what are you getting out of this?
Hey, Helen, you didn't know you was famous, girl.
I guess so. Hey.
And they do that to celebrities, though. I'm just saying.
Who has time?
They do that to famous folks. So yeah, check it. Y'all heard it here. Is this your first interview? You've never done an interview like this before?
No, I've done like little, 30-second questions online and stuff, but not a whole almost an hour, 54 minutes.
Bless your heart for letting me be the first one. So the first of many, I should say, because
it's like in my path to public speaking. You never know.
Listen,
you have to start somewhere, right?
Nah, you've been public speaking for a while now. The moment you told yourself you got comfortable being behind the camera or in front of, I should say.
I'm in a room by myself, though. It's a different. Nobody. So.
Helen, I appreciate you. And all the listeners out there listening, make sure y'all go ahead and show that support. And I didn't mention it. Follow my girl on YouTube. She is there. Same deal. Helen Santana Homes. Make sure y'all take care of my young lady and keep the QR codes coming. Bookmark the website. It's important.